Hello and welcome to Character Count by @TwitterBusiness. I'm your host, @JoeWablington. Twitter is a lively and passionate place where people come to discover what is happening in their world. So we want to show you the creative ways that brands and businesses and people are using Twitter to connect and engage with the audience that matter most to them. So each episode, I'm going to talk to the folks behind some standout advertising campaigns. Today, our guest is Susan Chang, the head of social media at Dropbox. Now, Susan is a true social media expert. Susan has advised on social strategy for brands such as Andreessen Horowitz, Microsoft, L'Oreal, and other big companies, and she's been doing social media since the beginning of social media. So I'm so excited to have her aboard. So she's going to talk to us about how she uses Dropbox's Twitter to win customers and why Twitter is a perfect place for Dropbox to humanize their brand. Susan, welcome.
Thanks, Joe. It's so nice to be here.
It's so nice to have you. I am so excited for everyone to hear all of your expertise about community managing, B2B brands, and the creativity behind Dropbox. Susan, would you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I currently head up the social media team at Dropbox. I've been at Dropbox for about 4.5 years, and my team and I focus on everything that has to do with social media, everything from managing the actual social channels to the community management, the content creation, the ad strategy behind all those channels, also figuring out how social connects to the larger marketing message of your company. And for me, it's something that I love to do because every day is never the same, and you get to build your expertise in a ton of different marketing industries and a ton of different marketing channels.
What is one of your favorite memes of the moment, a joke format that you're seeing right now that you really enjoy?
I just saw Ariana Grande's Thank You Next video come out, and I know tons of people have already memed the heck out of that video, but it seems superficial, but this ability for celebrities or influencers to make certain emojis trendy is a new thing now.
Tell me more.
And so normally when you use a heart, you use a red heart. But Ariana, I think, has really popularized the black heart emoji, which I didn't even know there was a black heart emoji. But after I saw her tweet it out a couple times, I noticed that all of my friends are now using the black heart instead of the red heart. And so it's so funny how in the details you can get when it comes to things like memes or social media, and how it feels like a very small thing, but it actually has a ton of reach, and a ton of people start kind of climbing on and contributing to that trend.
That's really interesting because there's so many hearts to choose from.
Yeah,
and
apparently.
we are supposed to use the blue heart from Twitter. We're encouraged to use the blue heart from Twitter.
See, even you guys know there's an official like emoji color policy. Like, that's amazing that these things exist now that never existed before.
What is your favorite account to follow on Twitter?
I think Chrissy Teigen is a crowd favorite. She really knows how to speak to her audience and be authentic. And you know that that's really her voice speaking and tweeting out that content. It's not a team or her publicist doing it for her.
You don't think she has a team?
Not one that
Sometimes
tweets things for her. She might have a team that focuses on like the sponsored content that she might be a part of, but I do think day to day that is her. And it's great to see celebrities embracing social media as something that they participate in to help build their brand, but also just really use it to communicate directly to their fans. And it's great to have this other access point that you didn't have, maybe 10 years ago. You were never able to one-on-one talk with a celebrity. That was unheard of. Like, you would write them a fan letter.
Or one-on-one be yelled at by a celebrity.
Yeah, like people are willing to do a lot of things on Twitter, and it's great to feel a little bit closer to those people that you normally wouldn't have access to.
What do your parents think you do?
So they think that I do something in marketing. They don't actually understand the day-to-day of my job. I will say that they try to understand, but they don't have a Twitter account. But I do notice that one time, or I did notice that one time they saw something on the news about Twitter, like on the Korean news. I don't know exactly what the story was, but I remember my dad very like proudly saying, "Oh yeah, I saw that like Twitter was in the news about this," and that was his way of trying to tell me, "Yeah, I sort of understand your job."
So as the head of social media, you have to wear 1,000 hats in a day. What is something that keeps you going in the office?
Something that keeps me going at my job is definitely my team. Also, Dropbox has really amazing coffee. We roast our beans on site. And
Whoa.
yeah, we have an amazing, we call it a coffee program, which I think is funny that we even call it that. But yeah, our Black Americanos are amazing. I have to have one of those every day before I start my work.
What is your Black Americano limit before you can start hearing color?
I definitely have to limit myself to 1 cup a day. If I go, it's one of those things where I have to have the 1 cup, but if I have more than 1 cup, then it's also not a very good thing for me. And so it's just that 1 cup, that's it. And then the rest of the day I'll drink tea. But if I have more than 1 cup, that's when I start to get weird.
Mine is 3. If I have 1 cup, I'm neutral. If I have 2, I'm very productive. But then if I have 3, I have to run to the Hoover Dam with my hands above my head. The name of one of the handles that you run is Dropbox Business, correct?
Yes.
And that's one of the things that we'll be talking about the most today. But how does it fit into @Dropbox, the company's main handle?
Yeah, so Dropbox Business is a part of our brand family. Our goal is to upgrade our basic users. We call them Dropbox Basic users. That's our free Dropbox offering into business users, into paying customers. And so a lot of the audiences that we target are people that we feel like have the propensity to upgrade. A lot of the messaging that we share on that channel focuses on, certain challenges or pain points that businesses may go through and how Dropbox can help solve those challenges. So in terms of the overall brand, it's sometimes thought as like one and the same because Dropbox Business and Dropbox, to most consumers, they don't really care who's talking to them because to them it's Dropbox. But we did find a specific need to have a separate business handle because we did have a specific audience that we were trying to target. We had specific product offerings that were only available to business users. So that's why we do have a very we do have a specific business-related handle.
From a tweet level, how would you see them as being different? What are some things that Dropbox Business tweets?
We do have a Dropbox brand voice, and it actually is not specifically called out for the business brand. We just have one brand voice. And the 3 adjectives that we use to describe our brand voice is expressive, joyful, and supportive. We also have a slightly different voice on the business handle because we know that we're talking to people who are, typically working in offices or in professional jobs. So while the Dropbox parent brand might be a little bit more vibrant, even when we think about colors, we try to choose some of the more expressive, colorful colors for the Dropbox parent brand, whereas for Dropbox Business, you'll see a lot of the much more safe blues for the business brand. So it's essentially just the content we're talking about is much more focused on our business features when we're talking to our business audience.
And at Twitter, we really believe that the future of work is remote work. In what ways does Dropbox comment on that or champion that? How do y'all express your stance on that?
Yeah, that is something that we also firmly believe in, that work is evolving, work is changing. You no longer have to have, a desk that you come to from 9 to 5. You can get your best work done anywhere. So Dropbox technologically is a tool that lets you do that because you can work from anywhere. Our tools let you share files. Our tools let you collaborate with other team members, no matter what region they might be in. And so for us, that message really rings true that not just that remote work is the future of work, but that your tools should allow you to work however way you want, and that you should never have to adhere to the limitations of the tools that you're using.
And I know Dropbox, the entire company, had a really drastic brand refresh. When was it?
This was in October of 2017.
In what way was the future of work related to the brand refresh, or how does it show up there?
It was directly relevant to our brand campaign. Our research actually showed us prior to the launch of this campaign that a lot of people were feeling tensions around work, and also that Dropbox, was traditionally used as this kind of idle storage tool that people kept, maybe on their desktop or in the background. And they were never really thinking about Dropbox as this active collaborative tool. And we really wanted to show the value of Dropbox as something that could be used in your day-to-day and not just, as a place where you would store your old wedding photos. So in addition to, revamping our message and revamping the way that we approached marketing, we also went through a big visual redesign. And so we have not just the blue and white colors for our Dropbox logo, but we also decided on having a fresh new color palette that was much more vibrant, much more unexpected. We also saw that compared to other tech brands, I won't name them, but a lot of other tech brands were using the same blue and white color palette.
Oh, like Twitter?
Yeah, exactly. And so in a space where, there's a lot of other tech brands, but there's also a lot of just direct competitors to Dropbox, we really wanted to figure out how can we stand out even just visually. And so having that new color palette was a big part of that.
And it's not just a color palette, the typeface, there's more illustrations. Could you describe more about visually how the new brand looks and how it feels?
Yeah, it's much more expressive, which is one of the adjectives we use to describe our brand voice. It's much more in your face because this idea of bringing Dropbox to the foreground rather than having us be in the day-to-day background of your life. We wanted to use a typeface that, wasn't as simple and maybe wasn't as business, expected. So we definitely put a lot of thought into that. So currently what we have up on all of our social channels is a combination of green and pink, and they're meant to contrast each other. They're not meant to feel like two colors that would normally go together. And we actually saw a lot of backlash when we first launched our new color palette, where people were just saying, what is Dropbox thinking? Why are these colors so ugly? But it was meant to elicit that kind of reaction where we wanted people to feel things about our brand. And so we're continuing that. So we'll occasionally, maybe once or twice a year, refresh our colors that we at least put on our social media handles. And undoubtedly, there will always be a handful of those people who complain no matter what our colors are. But again, it's this idea of bringing Dropbox to the forefront, making sure that we are seen. We also have a brand campaign that's live.
I love the colors.
Thank you.
I love them. I was shocked that y'all had beige as one of them. I believe it's paired with a maroon color. And I just thought beige is hot again. There's not a more boring color than beige.
Yeah.
And y'all made it interesting. And as much as I love the colors, I would also agree that they are ugly. I think it's perfect. It's the ugly, pretty line where it does feel creative, it feels interesting, and eye-catching. It is it catches your eye, which is nice for it. Sounds like y'all were going through a renaissance of wanting people to focus on Dropbox more. It's all these people who've forgotten that they even have it.
Yeah, that's absolutely what it was. We called it internally this head snapping moment. We wanted people to look up and be like, oh, is that Dropbox? And realize that we're not just this one note, brand that can blend in with all of the other apps on your phone, that we have this very active collaborative goal of wanting to work with you and your team.
So Dropbox is about collaboration.
Yes.
Speaking about that a bit, how many people contribute to Dropbox Business?
So my team officially owns it. We are the channel owners of Dropbox Business, but there are a lot of
Do you officially own every handle?
Yes. But there are other teams who will want access to that handle. So we have agencies in San Francisco or in our EMEA offices that also have access to post to that handle. We also have a couple people who sit internally at Dropbox on our marketing teams. They're mostly regional because regionally our teams really focus on using social media and just general marketing for leads, and they typically want to speak to a business audience to do that. And so we have about 2 people from each office in Australia and from Dublin who also have access to that handle.
So it's pretty common that we meet with clients who have a lot of people contributing to the same handle and a lot of Twitter passwords put on Post-it notes that are around the cubicles of the office. So knowing that you manage a handle that has people posting in different time zones, agencies in and out of the company, what advice could you give people who are managing a handle with many contributors?
I would say from the beginning, you have to have guidelines and rules for first who gets granted access, because social governance is really important, because we've all heard examples of brands getting their accounts hacked or disgruntled employees, taking over company handles and tweeting terrible things. And so having upfront, these are the rules around who gets access, who knows what the password is. Who
would you suggest should have access?
I would say as little people as possible should have access to a Twitter handle, but as many people that need to have access should also have access to it. So there are a lot of great tools also out there where you can give access to people through tools so that they don't actually directly have access through twitter.com. You even know exactly who is signing on, who is posting what, who is responding to what, who is scheduling content in the future. So for us, those types of tools are really great because it helps us really just be smart about who gets access to certain company handles.
So you would use that for maybe an agency where their employees would be changing in and out. What are some of the tools that you would use?
So we're currently using Sprinkler for that. And for us, again, it's something that we have our agencies on board with. And a lot of these agencies have experience with every social media tool out there. So it's not too hard for them to start using whatever you have at your internal company. So
yeah, we love Sprinkler too. So how many accounts total does Dropbox have?
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but I want to say all of our social media accounts are probably somewhere around a dozen.
Okay, so that's pretty small for what I would expect.
Yeah.
That actually sounds like the appropriate number.
Yeah, it's very intentional that we keep that number small. And I think there will always be a time and a place to expand the number of handles that you have for your company and for your brand. But right now, we feel like unless there is a very unique need for a new handle or a unique audience that we are currently not reaching with our existing channels, we don't need to create these one-off handles or offshoots of our brand, because a lot of times these handles can sometimes dilute the overall brand. And a lot of times these handles don't have full-time resources assigned to them. And people will really focus on outbound tweeting, and none of the community management will ever really get any eyes.
That's always the part they forget, is they come up with a campaign where they want it to be the most engaging, conversational, get all the replies, and then you say, great, who will manage this? And they're like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and especially if we were talking about under-resourced companies, that community management is such an amazing way to build your brand. And if you don't assign resources to that, then you're missing out on a ton of marketing opportunities. And if people aren't in the day-to-day of the social media industry, it's easy to fall behind on how you should actually be using something like Twitter. And so it's really hard for us to say yes when we see a request come in from someone, not on a marketing team, want to open up a new handle for their region, because we know that this isn't their day-to-day job. And I firmly believe that you have to have social media be your day-to-day job to really own a handle.
And the way that you have found effective to talk down that well-meaning budding marketer is to remind them and inform them about the level of responsibility that community managing takes and how much time. And if they're not willing to dedicate resources specifically to community managing, then no.
Yeah. Social media is a 24-hour thing. It never shuts off. So unless you can commit to having a plan that is able to meet those needs, then it's really hard for me to responsibly say, yes, you can have your own handle.
With so many handles and time zones, and I was blown away when I saw the dashboard of your ads campaign and saw how many different ads you are all running at the same time to very specific groups of people. Could you tell me more about testing and optimizing and how Dropbox Business runs several ads to figure out what is working best and then optimize and run the best thing?
Yeah, we really encourage our team members or agencies to run paid campaigns on Twitter. Paid campaigns are a really, really great way to have your content reach exactly the person that you want it to reach. And our UK agency is doing something pretty creative, in my opinion, where they actually run paid campaigns and they have about 4 to 5 variants for every piece of content that they want to push out.
So the content, the copy on the tweet is different for each one, and the picture is slightly different?
Yes.
Okay.
So they work on figuring out how to edit the copy slightly, and like you said, they'll switch out the photos for that. And they actually run those paid campaigns first. Whichever winning variant comes out of that campaign, they'll end up posting that organically on social as well.
Oh, wow. That's backwards of how everybody else does it.
Yeah, and it was one of those things that was pitched to me, and I remember thinking the same thing. But essentially,
because most companies they post a tweet and they post several that are slightly different time zones, and then based on which language that gets more likes, which one gets more retweets, which photo people expand or click on more, then they'll decide, okay, this is good content for our ads. But what I'm realizing while you're telling me this is that when you do paid on Twitter, your ads don't go to your followers. Or they can, but they're going for more than your followers. So using your followers as a testing ground is not necessarily the audience who will actually see the ad.
Correct. So some of the ad campaigns that we run are targeting people who currently do not follow our handle, and we're trying to reach new audiences. And this is, just an experiment we're trying right now. But for us, it does seem a little bit backward, but I don't see the harm in taking data this way, where you get the results from your paid campaigns and using that to inform your organic strategy. And I feel like with social media, where 10 years ago, it started as this organic platform. Ads are something you have to have as part of your strategy to make any sort of impact on these platforms nowadays. So I really feel like the data you get from ads is really, really valuable and should be as valuable as the data you get from your organic followers.
And what are some of the more interesting points of that data? What are some of the types of language or ads that your audience seems to have an affinity for?
People love to find relevance in our brand. And so when we do, pretty simple things like include human beings in our photos, those tend to get a little bit more engagement. We also find that when we use language that asks people a question, so again, like leaving the door open for our community to either give an answer or participate, those types of posts also tend to do well because it's creating this, feeling that, we care about our followers and we want to hear from them. So just like very practical things like that we've noticed will tend to perform better.
And those are 2 tips that are true not only for Dropbox Business, but we've actually seen across the entire Twitter platform. Those 2 things tend to perform better. As the head of social media, what is something that would surprise people about your job?
I would say even though you get to head a team, with social media, it's a job where you have to get down into the details and have to understand how every campaign is performing. You have to be able to, at a moment's notice, respond to someone's very specific question about something that happened one day in one tweet. And so even though you might be leading a team, you also have to be extremely involved in all of the day-to-day details. And so I think that's why the job is really hard. I think it's why a lot of social media marketers are really just great marketers in general, because you have to understand the full funnel of marketing. You have to understand how to target different audiences. You need to have expertise around organic, paid strategies. You need to be creative, but you also need to be data-driven. You need to care about the community, but you also have to be very proactive and have your own marketing campaigns that you launch. So it's a lot, and everyone expects you to be an expert in all of those things.
And it sounds like you're absolutely an expert in all of those things. What is your favorite Twitter tip?
I would say Twitter is an amazing tool for conversations to happen naturally between people who may normally never get a chance to speak to each other. And so if you have a channel that you manage for a brand, really think about all of those community management opportunities that you can execute, because without your community, you don't have anything. You don't have anything on Twitter. You're just talking to yourself.
And now give us a tip for life.
It's going to sound ironic because my job is social media, but I think it is very valuable to have time in your day where you shut that off. So if it's just 30 minutes where you don't let yourself look at your phone, where you don't let yourself check your social media, because social media will always be there and there will always be things that you can read. So it's never going to go away. So take advantage of some of the quieter moments where you can walk away from it.
Engage with your community, but don't be afraid to turn them off.
Yeah.
Susan Chang, thank you so much for joining us, the social media lead for Dropbox. Thank you for sharing all of your expertise. That was incredible.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Don't forget to follow at Dropbox Business for what, Susan?
For news and the latest product updates about Dropbox Business.
So it's inspiring to hear all the ways that brands and people use Twitter to get their message out. But how do those ads actually work? How do you set up a campaign? So I have a customer success person internally at Twitter here to explain some of the specifics. And since Twitter is all about live and in the moment, I haven't told them why they're here. So we're going to see how they are on the spot.
My name is Chloe Meir, and I am an account manager on the customer success team.
Would you say that you're a Twitter expert?
I would say that I am a Twitter expert on all things ads. Like, that is my bread and butter, and that's really what I kind of do day in, day out. So in that regard, yes.
Oh my gosh, you're a Twitter ads expert, and we have you in the building right now with your expertise laid bare in front of us. So have I told you why you're here today?
Why don't you tell me again?
That's a no. That's a very classy no. What level of nervous or alarmed are you right now?
Pretty nervous. I've never been on a podcast before, so it's like nerves and excitement.
Well, I'm going to use your expertise, and I'm going to rapid fire ask you some questions. So please answer these as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Ready?
I think so.
What is a dark tweet?
A dark tweet is a tweet that you post a campaign, like if you are setting up a certain parameter of targeting. So it's not going to live on your organic profile, but it's an ad that will only be seen to those that you are looking to target.
What is mobile app promotion?
So mobile app promotion is when you are an advertiser and you have an app that you're looking to promote out to different followers. If you're looking to get new people to download your app, then you could use a tweet. You could use that as your campaign objective to basically encourage people to install that app and get the word out about your app and what it does for people.
What is quick promote?
Quick promote is when you just have a post from your feed that you just go in, and rather than going in the actual campaign UI, you're actually just promoting it from your feed quickly.
Chloe, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. I think we